Okay, everybody, today we're going to look at 4-6, which we're still talking about congruent triangles, and now we're going to get 3 more shortcuts for how to prove that they are congruent. And those 3 are going to be angle, side, angle, 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 side, and hypotenuse leg. Yesterday, or in the last lesson, we talked about included angles, and that was the angle where 2 sides met. Okay, that angle would have been included in those 2 sides. Today, we're kind of going to look at the opposite of that, which is your included side. Okay, if I'm looking at 2 angles, P and Q, the side that is between them is segment PQ. Okay, so the nice thing about looking at included segments is that the endpoints of the segment should be the angles that you know. So like I know angle P, I know angle Q, so it's segment PQ. Does that make sense? So, your included side, the endpoints of your side is always the 2 angles that it should be between. Okay, so let's take a look at 2 of the 3 shortcuts that we're doing today. We're looking at angle, side, angle, okay, which is going to have 2 pairs of angles congruent and the side in between them. Okay, so if I'm looking here, angle A and D are congruent, C and F are congruent, and I have AC. So the side is between the 2 angles, so my S should be between the 2 A's. Okay, so that's enough information to know that triangles are congruent. Same thing down here with angle, angle, side. Okay, I have 2 pairs of angles are congruent and one of the other sides. It's not going to matter which of the other 2, as long as the important thing is to know is it's not the one between the 2 angles, okay? It could have been these 2 were congruent, or we could have said that LK and GH were congruent, okay? That could have also been angle, angle, side, all right? So when you're looking at today, we're looking at 2 pairs of angles congruent. Then your question is, where's the side? Is it between those 2 angles? Because then that's angle, side, angle. Or is it not between the 2 angles? Because that's going to be angle, angle, side. Okay, so let's take a look. I want to know which triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. So that means that I want 2 angles congruent and the side in between them. So like if I look here, I have a right angle. Here's my side. Here's the other angle that is congruent to this angle. Here's my side. Here's my angle. Okay, here's an angle, and here's an angle, and here's a side. So I want to know which of these 2 are congruent using angle, side, angle. This one has the included side. This one has the included side. So I can say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle. Now, A is congruent to which angle? J. So J comes next. B is going to be congruent to K. So K comes next. C will be congruent to L. So L is next. Okay, so again, it's really important that you are paying attention to the order of your letters when you are writing your congruent statements. All right, if you have any questions on that, go ahead and write those down now. And yay, more proofs. Okay, so what we're looking at here is trying to prove that my triangles are congruent. Okay, again, every time you see anything, you're going to mark it on your picture, or anytime that you figure out something, you're going to mark it on your picture. So we're told that LM and PO are congruent. We're told that angles L and P are congruent, and M and O are both right angles. Okay, so I have a side and I have an angle already congruent. Okay, so I know that these angles are congruent and these sides are congruent. I'm told that these are both right. So what do we know about right angles? Okay, we know that right angles are always congruent. So I can say angle M is congruent to angle O because all right angles are congruent. Okay, so now I know that these angles are congruent because I've just proved that. Why are my triangles congruent? I have an angle, a side, and an angle. My side that is included is between the 2 angles, so this is angle, side, angle. Okay, if you have questions on that, go ahead and write that down now as well. Okay, let's look at another one. We're going to just keep doing these. The more we do proofs, the better off you'll start to see and understand how we're going to go. All right, So we are given AB and AD are congruent. That is marked. We are given that B and D are both congruent. And we're given that ACB and ACD are both right angles. Okay, there's actually several ways that we could prove that these two triangles are congruent using a variety of options. Okay, we're going to go with the shortest way right now. But one thing that it's not going to be part of this proof because it's not a way we need to go, but again, we could find it, is that AC is congruent to itself. Okay, I want you to see that, but we're just not going to use it in this one because we have another way that we're going to go. That would take us a little bit of a longer route. We could still absolutely get from point A to point B using that reflexive property, but we may just take a different way to get there. So when I look here, okay, we were told that, again, I have two right angles. So that means that since they are both right angles, that they are congruent because of our right angle congruence theorem, which says that all right angles are congruent. Okay, now I know my triangles are congruent. All right, I just said that these two angles were congruent. So if I just label one triangle, I have an angle here, I have an angle here, and I have a side here. I have two angles and a side. Okay, is my side between my two angles? So when you go back and forth, like tracing over them with your pen, hitting angle to angle, are you tracing that side? No. So that means we're looking at angle, angle, side. Okay, the side's not between the two angles. It is one of the others. All right. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and write that down now. All right. So when I look here, I want to know, are the triangles congruent? Yes or no? And why? All right, so I have a variety of options if I think they are congruent. Angle, side, 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 or angle, angle, side, or not at all. Okay, so let's take a look here. We know that these are congruent because it's marked. These are both right angles, so we know that they're going to be congruent. And what else do we notice about my two triangles? They share a side, so that's reflexive. Okay, so I have an angle, I have an angle here, and I have a side. Again, we're just really going to label one triangle when we're trying to figure out what postulate or theorem proves that the triangles are congruent. That way you don't have a whole bunch of letters that are kind of getting you all messed up. So label one triangle. Just make sure that they have a matching one on the other side, and the other triangle is in the same order. So I have two angles and a side. Is my side between my two angles? So when I kind of trace those two angles and connect them with my pen, I'm not tracing that side. So it is angle, angle, side, which is C. All right. So again, if you have questions on that, go ahead and write that down now. All right. The last one that we are going to look at, I'm going to shrink up a little bit here. Okay, is hypotenuse leg. All right, just like all the others we've done, side, 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 angle, and angle, angle, side. All of those had three pieces of information that you need. Okay, we have the same three pieces of information here, even though we only have two letters. Okay, so the information that we need in order to use HL is, 1, I have to have right triangles. Okay, because I don't have a hypotenuse without right triangles. So I need to have a right triangle. The second piece of information is that the hypotenuses need to be congruent. All right. And then the third piece of information that I need to have is that one pair of legs are congruent. And I would make note of this somewhere if there's room beside the theorem on your notes or whatnot. Try and find a spot for this. Okay, you still have three pieces of information that you are going to need to show in a proof for HL in order to use it. Okay, again, you need to prove that you have a right triangle. You need to prove that you have your hypotenuse is congruent. And remember that your hypotenuses are always across from your right angle. So here's my right angle. This is my hypotenuse over here. All right. So your hypotenuses are congruent, and then one pair of the other two sides are congruent. Okay, so I could have BC congruent to FE like I have here, or I could have been given BA congruent to DE. Either one, it doesn't matter. I just need to know one of the two pairs of legs are congruent. So let's take a look at our last example here, okay? I am given that AD is congruent to CB, all right? And I'm given that angles D and B are right angles. So my picture is marked for everything that I have right now. All right. What do you notice that these two triangles do? Okay, you should see that they share this side. So we're going to say AC is congruent to AC by reflexive. All right, so let's look and see what we have here. Okay, so we know kind of where else we need to go. I have this triangle here. It has a right angle, so I know it's a right triangle, but I haven't stated that yet in my proof. So we're going to kind of hold that thought. But I have that the hypotenuses of the two right triangles are congruent, and I have a pair of legs. So the things that I need to show that my hypotenuses are congruent, which I did here. I need to show that I have a pair of legs congruent, which was given to us. And the third thing that we had to show was that I have two right triangles. That is not yet in our proof. Okay, our proof, the information that we were given says that we have right angles. It doesn't say that I have right triangles. I have to actually take that step. So the three things that we talked about over here, right triangles, hypotenuse congruent, and legs congruent, I have to see that over here, and I don't have right triangles, I have right angles. So what I can say is triangle ABC is a right triangle. And I can say triangle CDA is a right triangle. Okay, how do I know that they are right triangles? What does it mean to be a right triangle? Okay, the definition of a right triangle is a triangle that has a right angle. Well, I have right angle here, so that means I can conclude I have a right triangle. So that is my definition of a right triangle. Okay. So again, what it means to be a right triangle is it's a triangle with a right angle. When we're given right angles, we can conclude we have a right triangle. Now I can hit everything in my check marks. I have a right triangle, which we just said here. I have my hypotenuses are congruent, which we've said here. And I have a pair of legs congruent, which is given to us. So now I can say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA by hypotenuse leg. Okay, so one of the first things that I want you guys to do when you see right triangles is to look and see if HL is a possibility. Okay, if your picture is given to you with a right angle, check first to see if you can use HL. Now, will you always be able to? Absolutely not. Sometimes it's going to be side, 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 or side, angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side, depending on what else you're given. Like when we went back here, okay, I have a triangle, and I have my hypotenuse congruent, but I don't have another pair of legs congruent, so I can't use HL with this problem, even though it's a right triangle. Okay, but if I see a right angle, that's what I want to look for first to see if HL works, because it's the only one that doesn't really go by the letters like everything else does. All right. But again, just because it's a right triangle doesn't mean it's going to always be HL. So if you have questions on that, go ahead and write that down now, and I will help you guys out with anything you need when I next see you. All right, have a great day, guys.